Hey guys, my name is JC and we're back again testing Ratadrabik of Urborg. This deck aims to make multiple token copies of legendary creatures to lock our opponents down or overwhelm them with value. If you like what you see, then make sure to stop by the channel where we have a deck tech discussing all of the included cards as well as the overall strategy. Let's see just how dangerous multiple copies of a legendary creature can be. Okay guys, let's see who we're playing today. We have Queza, Augur of Agonies, we have Kogla the Titan Ape, and we also have Neera Wild Mage. Okay, so if I take a look at our opening hand, it's quite good. We do have quite a bit of fast mana. We have Recursion, we have another piece of Return to the Battlefield effect, and another Recursion piece, so we will need to draw into some sort of legendary that has an effect, but I'm pretty happy to keep this. And it looks like the Neera player starts us off by putting into play a Leyline of Anticipation. You can cast spells as though they had flash. Okay, and we draw a High Market for turn. Well, we don't really have a turn 1 play to make, so we'll start by playing our Flooded Strand. We'll crack it, and we'll put our Sunlit Marsh into play. It'll come into play tapped, and that's going to be our turn done. Queza just plays a tap land for turn, and that's going to be it for them. Kogla plays a land for turn, it also comes into play tapped, it's a Myriad Landscape, and that's also going to be them done. And Neera also plays a tap land for turn, so all three of our opponents playing tap lands. And now it goes over to us. We draw another land for turn, so we've got to start to hope that our draws get a little better soon. We get into some good legendaries. So we'll just play our Vault of Champions, and we'll pass the turn. Queza plays a land for turn. And now they start by casting a Soul Ring. And next they follow it up with a Mystic Archaeologist. You can pay 5 mana into it to draw 2 cards. And that is it for their turn. Kogla plays a land. And they also play a Soul Ring. And next they follow that up by cracking their Myriad Landscape. They're going to be able to put 2 basic lands into play tapped. And that's going to be them done. Neera plays a land for turn. It's a Reliquary Tower, so they do have no maximum hand size. But it looks like that's it for them. We draw a Carrion Feeder for turn. Well, that is good news to have a sack outlet. So we'll play our Ancient Tomb. And then we'll cast our Commander. And at least next turn we can cast Dark Ritual, get Mikaeus out. And that'll give a bit of protection to our commander and hopefully some other good creature that we draw into. And that's going to be our turn done. Queza plays a land. And now they cast their commander. Queza, Augur of Agonies. Whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And that is it for their turn. Alright, well we could see Kogla come down here and they do play a land for turn. And we do. We see Kogla come down. When it ETBs, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. When it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls, and you can pay 1 and a green, return target human you control to its owner's hand, and it gains indestructible. And they are targeting Queza, so I'm sure the Queza player is not going to be happy with that. But fortunately for them, they do have a Soul Ring, so if they have a land next turn, they can just replay it out. But that's going to be it for the Kogla player. Neera plays a tap land for turn, but that's going to be it for them. We draw a Luminous Broodmoth for turn. So we have a lot of great recursive pieces, but just no notable legendaries to be able to use with it, or card draw to be able to get into them. So we'll start by playing our Silent Clearing for turn. And I think I might actually still hold on to Dark Ritual here. I think I might try to get Luminous Broodmoth and Carrion Feeder onto the battlefield. That's going to do the same job of giving our commander protection and still setting us up. And that way we can hold on to the Dark Ritual in case we run into one of our big creatures like Elesh Norn or Sheoldred. So next we'll cast our Carrion Feeder. Then we'll move to combat. And we'll send Ratadrabik in at the Queza player, seeing as they can typically gain a lot of life. They take the damage, and we are going to pass the turn. Queza plays a land, and now they cast Mastermind's Acquisition. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Now there is a 1-card win combo in Queza, so we'll see if that's what they end up tutoring up, but they will need to get their commander and the noted card to be able to do it. So we still have a little bit of time. A Junji would be really great to draw into, so we could make them discard it. And that is it for their turn. Kogla plays a land. And now they cast Skullwinder. When it ETBs, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, then choose an opponent. That player returns a card from their graveyard to their hand. Now they obviously chose the Neera player there and they didn't have any cards in their graveyard. Now they also cast a Wayfarer's Bauble. They move to combat. Kogla's swinging over at the Neera player. That triggers Kogla and they are targeting the Leyline of Anticipation. So they don't want the Izzet player to have flash, which I can understand. Makes it a lot more harder to play into. So the Leyline goes down. They will take a big hit of 7 commander damage. And they're just going to leave the turn there. Neera plays a land. And now they cast Imprison in the Moon targeting Kogla. So that's a bit of payback right there. Enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with tap, add colorless, and it loses all other card types and abilities. Well, let's see if they have a response. Nope, so Kogla does get enchanted. They can certainly draw into something like a Nature's Claim, but at the moment, Kogla is out of commission. And even though they were always going to probably be the target, that's what I love about playing aristocrat type strategies, is even if they did target one of our creatures, having a sack outlet online just means that there's no real point in targeting our stuff, so we afford ourselves that little bit of extra protection against those powerful removal pieces. And that is it for the Neera player. Alright, let's keep our fingers crossed we draw a good legendary, or at least some card draw. Okay, a Douthie Voidwalker. It's neither of those things, but I do love myself a Douthie. And we might be able to snag something good off the other players. So I'll start by playing High Market. And I think now's the time to actually use the Dark Ritual, because I'd like to get Mikaeus down for a bit of extra board protection as well as Douthie Voidwalker. So let's do that. So we cast Dark Ritual. We'll make sure to tap for enough black. We'll start by casting Mikaeus first. And then we'll follow that up with Douthie Voidwalker. We have a response from the Kogla player. They just sack their Wayfarer's Bauble. Just prevents us from getting it. Now Douthie resolves, and I think it's time we go to combat. We'll send Ratadrabik towards Queza again. We'll send our Luminous Broodmoth towards the Kogla player. And we'll send our Carrion Feeder towards the Neera. Notably, because Carrion Feeder is a zombie, our commander does give it Vigilance. The damage goes through. Now I think that's all we're going to leave it there for turn. Now one thing that's really important to note, and something I hope our opponents haven't realised yet, is with Mikaeus and Luminous Broodmoth out, if we basically get a legendary creature that will return because of both of them, we're going to be able to essentially make infinite copies of that creature. So we're right on the cusp of being able to do something pretty crazy. We just got to really have some good draws soon, and hopefully we can do it. Alright, we'll pass it over from there. Queza plays a land for turn. And now they activate their Mystic Archaeologist, drawing 2 cards. And that is it for their turn. Kogla plays a tap land for turn. They replay their Myriad Landscape. Now they cast Springbloom Druid. When it ETBs, you can sack a land. If you do, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. But they're just going to leave it from there. Neera plays a land for turn. And now they cast Gataxian Probe, looking at our hand and drawing a card. They're probably going to have to take their time reading Jia How Done. It's not really a card that's played that often. Prior to building this deck, I've never seen it myself. But an absolute powerhouse in our deck. And now they cast Traumatize. Target player mills half their library rounded down. Okay, I'm not too sure what their plan is here in doing that. They've seen our hand. They know we have Necromancy and Jia How Done. So these are the absolute 2 worst cards I could have in my hand if they want to do this. But I'm not going to complain. They're probably going to give us the win here. But once again, we're seeing mill effects playing into a player's hand. So we've milled quite a bit there. Well, there's Kakusho, so that's already a win condition there. And quite a number of other creatures, but really that's going to be the one that's going to do it. We also have Yosei if we wanted to tap all of our opponents down and lock them out. And that is it for their turn. The Queza player is holding priority here on the end step, so I think they're thinking through. They probably have some removal in their hand, but we're in a pretty strong position to be able to handle any interaction that comes our way. Even if they cast something like a Path to Exile, we can just sacrifice it and it pretty much comes right back to the board again. And we go to our turn, we draw an Anointed Procession. Really great card, but we don't really need it. Alright, well let's see if we can get Kakusho onto the battlefield. So we'll start by casting our Necromancy, targeting Kakusho. So I just checked chat and our opponents have realised what we can actually do here. That's why we have one of the players scoop it up. Now they did mention Yosei, which is definitely a good lock piece, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to bring back Kakusho, get the job done. Alright, so let's start by sacking Kakusho. I'll put some triggers on the stack. Now we have another player scoop it up. Now important to note here, because Kakusho does have flying, Luminous Broodmoth won't actually bring it back. So we weren't going to be able to infinitely loop it there. But our opponents have conceded and that is the game done, guys. Alright, well let's go to the review and discuss what happened. Well, this game went in our favour in a number of ways. Firstly, Ratadrabik having Ward 2 meant that when Kogla came down, Queza became the target instead. This was actually quite good, as we later found out that the Queza player had a tutor in hand. Secondly, having Carrion Feeder on board with Luminous Broodmoth and then later Mikaeus the Unhallowed gave our board a lot of protection that was very hard to interact with. And lastly, the Neera player milling us even after they'd seen that we had Reanimation in hand. I know we did our Douthie Voidwalker on board, which meant that really any of the other players weren't great targets either, but they really should have held that Traumatize in hand until the right moment came to cast it. These factors combined allowed us to keep our commander on board, establish a very resilient board state, and then present a potential loop that was enough for our opponents to scoop it up. Well, that's it from me today. Although we didn't get to see any crazy plays this game, we did get to see how resilient the deck can be when it lands a few key pieces. Sometimes, that combined with a little help from your opponents is all you need to get the job done. Until next time, guys.